How about them Stranger Things, huh? Anyway, hey everybody, what's up? This is Retrokid Reviews coming off of, I'm not even kidding, like 4 minutes ago on the finale itself. So this is my fresh thoughts on not just the season 5 of Stranger Things, but the series finale in general that came out yesterday, New Year's Eve, as of this recording. I know this will probably be out after New Year's Day, so happy 2026 to my regular viewers, and yeah, I got a professional lighting and figured out cinematic mode if you saw my top fives from last year, so go to that. So let's not stand unceremoniously, let's get this over with. Yeah, it was a decent finale. There was a lot more plot armor than usual for the kids, and honestly, I kind of thought some of them might have bought it. More particularly in Eleven's case, we'll get to the series finale when we get to it. As for volumes 1 and 2, it was a lot of placeholding. I think Moist Critical kind of said it themselves. It was like, they were just placeholding till like the finale to see where things really drop, where the finale kind of comes in. A lot of like exact details of how things are really going to run out. And honestly, I don't really know. It's a lot. I've binged the whole thing in one weekend, so that's kind of the problem there. I'm still digesting from my binge and still getting the old crux of like how it was binging the show when it was new at the time. So, for the uninitiated, I usually used to binge all the shows and all the seasons and just do a big takeaway of how I felt about the series. For those who've been around when I was reviewing the series officially since around, I want to say season 3, that's kind of the case here. So, on to actor controversies before we get to the show itself. I am very much aware about Brett and uh, Noah Schnapp, Brett being, of course, Murray throughout the series, and obviously Will in Noah's case. I know how they feel about the Palestinian-Israel conflict, so my bad in advance there. I look up their problems. Maybe they misquote it. I hope in Noah's case, but don't really know the other way around for most celebrities. That will be wishy-washy with the last decade of politics, so again, your mileage may vary. So, with that said, what is my overall thoughts on just the season itself? Vecna had a huge plan, was to get 12 kids total, one more closer to 13 Reasons Why reference, see what you were doing there, Duffers, but the guest directors they had for each episode was actually okay. Frank Darabont came out of retirement to basically help out, I think, one of the penultimate episodes in Volume 1, basically when Vecna made his first strike. And another controversial thing about Volume 1 for this season, bringing back Kali, she was a character way back in that unpopular episode of season 2 where we all thought the producers were making the Duffers pitch a weird spin-off show. Might have still come to pass knowing that, but no, because she was still technically a new character. Sometimes new characters, if you saw last season, do bite it. In seasons 4's case was because Eddie's actor who ended up being, Johnny Goddamn Storm in Fantastic Four. So yeah, that was kind of by design, at least narrative-wise and most likely casting-wise as well. So with that all said, what about the principal cast itself? I'll say this, the only one that got beefed up more than usual in the writing was Winona Ryder. Every time she was exchanging, like, how much has Will changed throughout his trauma over the past several years in universe. I know it's a lot longer now as them being in their 20s as actors. You could tell this was a Will story as well. You could tell it was trying to find some finality to where everything was with the Mind Flayer, with Vecna nowadays since season 4. And for Jamie Campbell Bower coming back as Vecna, he was deliciously evil right up until the plot and like how the finale kind of came to its head. I want to give a big MVP shout out. Like I think everyone probably will this season. Sadie Sinks Max. She was out of the park more than usual. I was a huge fan of the Kate Bush run. I know that needle drop has been played to death when the season was out in 2023, but with good reason if you know the context. And one last thing when it comes to Will, since we're now getting into the Volume 2 side of things, I'm only going to mainly talk about Episode 7. Basically them getting ready for the finale and everything, having a plan. A lot of planning more than usual. Again, that's where the placeholding kind of writing is. It's not their fault. Again, it's not as rushed. I've seen series finales rush themselves at the end. Those who remember the Game of Thrones days, you know how this goes. As for Will finally coming out, some online said it's a little anachronistic. Not everybody came out gay in the late 80s. Semi-true, semi-not true. I don't want to get into the crux of it. I feel like it's an earned moment regardless. is the room bigger for that kind of coming out sesh? I would believe it, but at the same time, this is a fantasy 80s. This was always the case since like season 3. This was a fantasy 80s. Not everything's gonna line up how you probably grew up in that decade, so my bad. I don't know your story. I am a cis straight ally, long story short here. And to put it bluntly, it still breathed pretty well. Noah Schnapp was doing everything he could to breathe that scene, and pretty much since we're now into Volume 2, the powers of it all that he finally gets as well is actually really cool. It was more metaphorical, not really much of a sexuality, but more like, I finally have control of like all these monsters that have been tormenting me for over a good third of his childhood, good third of his now teenhood in universe. I know they're all in their 20s nowadays, actors wise, but I don't know. I like it. I'm not in love with it. I am gonna agree with that, but it's at least you can definitely tell that still Duffer's writing in general. You can still, they want to do something. They're still cooking with their principal cast. As for the secondary cast, the Derek of it all, that kick actor is probably gonna get a lot of gigs. He's probably gonna be annoying as time goes on. Speaking as a big guy, I felt represented how that would have been in that timeline, but at the same time, if I had to hear one more big fat one, I was going to be mad knowing that kid in universe would probably grow up to be a Redditor or something. So, sorry in advance, but for those who like the kid actor, hope he does well in the future. Seriously, regardless. So yeah, on to David Harbour. Another semi-controversy I think him and Millie nipped in the butt when they were doing the press tour for the season was that he might have bullied the kids early in the series. I don't know. I don't care. I think they don't care either. I think it's been conjecture and rumor mill for as long as I don't even know. So, again, Google that yourself. Not going to be in the links down below. Sorry for that. So, last up, John and Nancy and Steve. The actual teens that got to be their actual 20s by the time this series actually ended. They're all cool. They all had a decent ending. Rocket Robin herself, Maya Hawke, did a great job coming back, doing full representation of at least the lesbian side of the Gatum, queer community back in the day. Yeah, and again, as everyone said, I think a Twitch streamer might have said it on his channel as well. I'll leave it in the probably only cards here. No, it was hinted. Everyone kind of had the idea. The older side of the kids cast kind of got an idea how Will was feeling. Didn't really have an idea. Like, there was causative ideas. It was like that. I don't know. It felt like it breathed better. I don't know. Again, it'd probably also be Duffer's writing helping out once again. On to Sean Levy, who has also been a producer of the franchise and finally gets to direct an episode. The Escape from Max in general. Yeah, it was really cool. Karen Reeler, shout outs to her character actor. She brought it when it comes to taking out a demo herself. I saw clips online, some of the spoilers. I thought it was unrealistic. I thought it was weird. But given that they undercooked a lot of like Karen's abuse with like her husband, because Reagan era times and stuff like that, kind of understandable. Karen wants to get her get back, and my God, she did. But as for the monsters themselves, let's get to the finale. Yeah, we finally get an idea why Vecna was so powerful for so long. I just came off of the finale. I can't explain it myself. I know the Abyss was mentioned way too many times. Not to the James Cameron movie. No, that's not going to be my first retro review for 2026. Sorry in advance. Spittle aside. I don't know. It's a lot of things, but the plan itself does feel like an MCU kind of third act, given how big these characters have become, how big the actors have become, and how most of them, especially in Sadie's case, who's going to be in MCU shows down the road, and David as well. Yeah, it was a good finale. You got the idea. I was hyped when Vecna finally died. Was it weird that Joyce finally did it? No. I think in character, that was fine. I think, was it weird that her character didn't have enough time in the Upside Down like everybody else throughout the series? Yes. I'm very much aware they beefed up Joyce just to finally get the one shot on him. But understandably, they did have crux and pieces of what they remember of Season 1, at least in the writing. It's not a decent even flow getting to it. I understand. It was also a metal as hell getting his head chopped off, but again, it could have been any of the kids. It could have even been the kids that got kidnapped by him earlier this season. It could have even been Holly's actor, who, by the way, was a horror regular because I think she was in Evil Dead Rise a few years ago, so go to my review on that. And, yeah, I don't know. I'm still mulling it over. I'm still going to meditate over and marinate of my overall thoughts of it. This is a fresh react, going to be real with you. And, yeah, It's a good finale. The wrap up is basically how you expected. My biggest prediction for the wrap up was that they were all gonna sit down and play Dungeons and Dragons, like maybe inspire themselves throughout their journey, inspire themselves of like how everything is. This show in general started being the gateway for a lot of people into get Dungeons and Dragons, me included, with obviously Critical Role, and yeah, they paid it forward, showing second edition and Curse of Strahd, proving that they were going to make it to 89, but given how everyone has grown up since then, in between the shows, in between the seasons, in between their own projects, it was never going to be in the cards, and I could kind of see where they were going to go there. Outside of that, there were some local hood shout-outs to New York on Steve's case, so gonna leave that there. Also, as of this recording today, my newly elected mayor was in, so shout-outs to him as well. Please don't mess it up, as usual. Probably the nicest way I'll say about my own local politics here. So, yeah, I'm gonna get to my own wrap-ups. It's a good season. Regardless, the wait time for all of these seasons was the hardest. I think the hardest wait was obviously from seasons 3 to 4, and now this. They're going to be the baggage that will be remembered about the show when people do more retrospectives, have more time of it, me included. Ultimately, I feel like this cast went out the way they wanted to go. I feel like the Duffers respected their exits, and I hope two things. One, they don't do a spin-off show because that's way too much. I mean, they apparently these guys haven't learned anything from season 2. We'll find out when that happens, if anything. I'm also aware, this is where the number 2 comes in, that there's going to be an animated series in between the seasons, like I think the winter right after 85, basically season 3 stuff. So I could get it. I see the cast coming up, and it's actually decent people. I think Lou Diamond Phillips is going to guest star in that. And another tradition from the show was guest stars from the actual 80s that actually got to be a villain or whatever. Yeah, let me drop that ball right now. They didn't really do much with Linda Hamilton. She was just another generic military person looking for Elle, long story short. Sorry for the last spittle. So it's 20 plus degrees down here. Sorry in advance. And I'm coming off with sickness. Outside of that, she did the best what she could. She had like 1 or 2 moments of like getting back like her Sarah Connor vibes, but not really hooked enough to be an overall human threat. You can definitely tell it was Vecna and Elle show throughout that entire subplot, and there was really no getting around it. Yeah, and outside of that, that's kind of how I feel. So I guess as my overall this season review, I'll say regrettably 8 out of 10. Straight 8s, no highs, no nothing. It's still good for what it is. I'm not underwhelmed. The reason why it's staying at a straight 8 is because I thought some of these main characters were actually going to die, but then again, I also remembered that they were going to go the way of, like, probably the Game of Thrones route and not actually get killed canonically. But there was almost one. Spoilers for the finale, long story short, but yeah, Elle didn't die. She escaped. She's on a new place. I don't know where. Again, I'm just coming off the finale. I'll leave a heavily spoilers or whoever that's already doing theory crafting what state she ended up hiding out after the fact from 87 to 89. And that's kind of it. Now as a overall for the series, now this is something I did, I think, with Squid Game last year, and I'll do the same thing here too. My overall series review, I haven't re-binged all the seasons. I've only loosely remembered bits and pieces of 4 to catch up for this season, and not so much of the main 3 or beginning seasons. So let that be in consideration when it comes to my final review. So overall, 7 out of 10. Now, again, the early seasons, like season 1, is still a high 10. I believe there was high 9s with 2 and 3 that was recency bias at the time. Now, knowing how things have changed in season 3, that is knocking down to 7. And yeah, it's a straight 7 all around for the rest of the season and series. So again, yes, this was a juggernaut franchise, and I think I Hate Everything's TV side of his channel basically made the joke of like, this show was around for almost a decade and has been through 4 presidencies. One of them who got his job back twice. So, again, getting back to my personal politics aside and trying to transition to the young card, sorry in advance, but not really. Yeah, that's what I feel about the show. If you have any more comments, concerns, you have your own theories of how they're going to handle doing spinoffs or I guess, a weird reboot later down the road. I don't think they should personally, but that's on them if they do. Let me know in the comments down below. Hype point this video if you are new to my channel. And speaking if you're new to the channel, end card's finally coming up to my previous video here, which was my end of the year top 5s. Other hand here to my shorts playlist, which will probably be back in full swing next week with Critical Role shorts for campaign 4. And speaking of next week, I'm probably going to do my best to talk about all 10 episodes so far of Campaign 4 instead of just doing a traditional short because I think I lost that in the footage. So with that also being said, shirt here to sub the channel, hit the notification bell down below, and until next time, yeah, that was a lot of Stranger Things, but yeah, I hope this cast, like, gets MCU gigs at this point, like David did, and so did Sadie. Is it that hard to ask for Finn or Caleb at this point? Like, come on, Lucas was putting his whole body on the line when it comes to that kind of acting. Seriously, guys, what are we doing?